All right. Good evening, guys, and welcome to today's Safeoclock Health and Safety Interactive Workshop. So, as our culture has been, we'll start with a brief presentation, after which we can share our experience and share our ideas. So, today's topic is warehouse safety. So, we are talking about warehouse safety. We started this circle about 5 weeks ago, said we are going to look at safety in different industries. So we've thought about in facilities, in building construction, in road construction. We've thought about also in last week was building construction. So we'll take turns and hit almost all the industries, looking at how safety is managed in those industries. So today we'll be looking at warehouse. Personally, I've not worked full time in warehouse, but I'll be discussing a few slides based on my the information I read and based on other related experience that I have. Okay, we are on Safeoclock platform. This is our weekly health and safety interactive workshop. So we'll meet weekly every Thursday by 6 p.m. to discuss a chosen topic for that particular week. So in my brief presentation, I will look into warehouse safety. I will look at some of the regulations and standards that exist in warehouse safety. I will also look at some hazards and controls in warehouse, and I'll also look at some of the most common PPE used in warehouse. So let's begin. Warehouse safety is majorly a set of regulatory guidelines or industry best practice that helps warehouses to ensure that they have adequate safety measures in place and ensure that safe behaviors and safe work practices are maintained in warehouse. So for warehouse operations to be sustained and to be safe, OSHA recommends that there is an adequate safety measure in place. And by statistics, the indices says that the incident in warehouse is increasing, even compared to the national average. So let's look at some of the regulations and standards that this warehouse operates with. So one of them is hazard communication, HAZCOM. HAZCOM is a standard that's applicable in warehouse also because it involves communication of hazard, right? Now, note that from my investigation so far, from my findings, there is no specific standard or specific, let's say, specific regulation for warehouse safety management. But we'll look into all the related safety management and safety practices that is applicable to warehouse. Okay, HAZCOM is for communication of hazards and is also applicable in warehouse where employees or workers are exposed to hazardous substances, they're exposed to chemicals throughout the activities. So HAZCOM comes in where all these hazardous materials should be communicated to the workers. Another standard or regulation is EAP, Emergency Action Plan. So this is also applicable in warehouse, where warehouse owners that have up to 5 employees are expected to have in-house fire brigades. So this in-house fire brigades, they will have an emergency action plan which describes the actions that are required to be taken by the employees or by the workers in event of any fire or any emergency situation. Okay, then fire safety. For warehouse management, employing more than 10 workers, they are required to have a written fire prevention plan. So if the workers are less than 10, you should have a fire prevention plan, but it's not mandatory, it's not regulatory that you should have it written down. So written fire prevention plan is mandatory for every organization or every workplace that is employing more than 10 workers. And this fire prevention plan should stipulate the measures in place to prevent fire outbreak and actions to be taken in event of fire emergency, or equipment and tools that are readily available to fight fire in the event of fire emergency. Exit routes. Exit routes must be designated. Should be at least two well-designed exit routes. So in fire in a warehouse, the exit route must be at least two. So this is part of the standards and best practice in warehouse, that you should not have only one exit route. It should be a minimum of two. And there should be adequately constructed emergency exit routes, and the exit route must not be blocked. The fire equipment must never be blocked, and there should be trained fire marshals or fire brigades available. So working surfaces in the warehouse or working surfaces, warehouse involving work at height, the work at height platforms must be adequately installed with fall protection or fall prevention equipment. And the surface itself must also be slip resistant. For medical and first aid, OSHA requires that the warehouse operators, they must provide medical and first aid personnel. So there must be a trained and competent first aider in the warehouse, so that in event of emergency, maybe pallet falling on somebody, the warehouse first aider must be available to attend to the person before the arrival of the paramedics. Okay, so let's look at some of the hazards existing in the warehouse and their control measures. One of them is forklift operation. You know that in warehouse, most of the items or most of the packages are moved around or stacked using the warehouse. So warehouse comes as one of the major hazards existing in warehouse. Forklift comes as one of the major hazards existing in warehouse operation. So one is that the operator, the forklift operator, must be competent and should be properly supervised. Then refresher training must be organized for the forklift operators regularly. There must be checklists for daily pre-use inspection. The forklift must be inspected daily before each use. And then another hazard is loading dock. So for the loading docks, the operators must drive slowly around those loading dock plates to ensure that they do not come in contact with those loading docks. And the area, the edges must be safe and must be clear. There must be warning signs to alert people of the presence of those loading docks. Another hazard existing in the warehouse is conveyors. Conveyors are used to move materials or items from one point to the other, especially during packaging. So people can get trapped, fingers or a hand can get trapped in conveyors. So people being aware of this existing hazard is very, very important. And there could also be some mechanical measures to prevent people's hands or arm getting in contact with these conveyors. Another hazard in warehouse is manual lifting or manual handling. So because of the routine activities of twisting, lifting of loads. So there is a lot of manual activities involved in warehouse. So ensuring that the people engaged in manual activities are well trained, they know the right posture and the right procedure to use while engaging in manual activities, and they are informed of musculoskeletal disorders, and they know how to prevent this illness or waist pain or any injury related to manual lifting. Then in practically, manual handling should be limited and should be reduced using other mechanical means to move items from one point to the other should be recommended. Another hazard existing in warehouse is chemicals or hazardous substances. So in warehouse, shifting on hazardous substances, moving them from one point to the other is one of the existing hazards, which if the forklift operator or if the workers are not adequately trained or they don't take care, these materials could fall, leading to spills, and some of them can be corrosive and which can cause injury to the people, as well as environmental degradation. So hazardous chemicals is one of the major hazards existing in warehouse. Another hazard exists in charging stations. Charging stations could be areas where the forklifts get refilled, the ones that run in batteries where they get charged. So these areas are prone to fire outbreak. There is possibility of fire and explosion in this area. So the area should be properly excluded. Only authorized people should be there, and there should be adequate fire prevention or fire protection measures in those areas. The charging stations should be well ventilated to ensure that there is no accumulation of fumes in that area. And anyone working in that area should wear adequate PPE, fire-rated coveralls, helmet, and all those required PPEs to work in those areas. Now, let me conclude with a listing or saying some of the common PPE required in warehouse. One of them is head protection. So helmets, like we all know, the very important of helmet. Helmet protects head injury, protect the head from injury, maybe hitting on the surface or hitting on stationary objects. So this using helmet is one of the mandatory PPEs in the warehouse. So even though that the warehouse exists inside the covered area or is not exposed to outside environmental factors, but because there is risk of falling objects, items are stacked on the shelves. So helmet is very mandatory in warehouse to prevent head injury. Another PPE is hand protection. Hand gloves are very required also in warehouse to ensure that the people working, especially packaging teams, they do not get entangled and their hand cannot get trapped. So hand protection is also important. Eye protection is important as well to prevent any contact with the eyes. Foot protection, safety shoes are very, very important as well because it will protect the people from any sharp object or anything that could cause a cut. Now, the other PPE is high visibility clothing. Because of the constant and regular movement of forklifts, other equipment, or other machineries within the forklift. So high visibility clothing is very, very important and is well recommended for use in the warehouse. So this is the brief presentation I want to start with. So after that, we'll now give room for anyone who has something to contribute to go ahead. So if anyone wants to contribute, he can go ahead, no problem.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Can hear you.
Yeah, yes, sir. I really want to say I appreciate your presentation. It was really wonderful. And actually, I didn't partake of all completely, but for the ones I was able to pick, I really enjoyed them. Now, I would just want to talk about warehouse safety as regards uh, stacking. If working at height, really, when you talk about a warehouse, there's no way you cannot talk about stacking. But a warehouse is a place where you have materials being kept being stacked. So I want to say here that uh, basically the major thing we need to put into consideration when considering lifting in a warehouse to make yours quite easy in warehouse is you doing your work, mechanize the equipment such that at the end of the day, workers don't suffer from manual handling risk and the like. So it's very key that we put into consideration usage of motorized equipment like forklift and dumpers and the like. So really, I'm working in a company where we actually really into lifting operations and stacking wares, stacking equipment. I work in a airline organization, an aviation industry where we stack airline stock from British Airways and the likes. So actually, cannot rule out uh, stacking. Or personnel should come to the understanding that when you are stacking equipment, you ought to put into consideration good stacking practice because there's always risk for objects falling from heights. Uh, the heights that we may consider may not be too uh, 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 may not be a serious height per se, but still uh, you ought to put into consideration too usage of uh, step ladders and equipment. And it's also important that we state here that overreaching not be done in warehouses. Take into consideration usage of step ladders and it's needful also that thorough assessment should be done in terms of how products or wares can be handled in the right way, such that at the end of the day, personnel don't suffer from manual handling risk of chemicals burning personnel, and also risk of uh, injuries. Then I heard you talking about HASCOM, hazard communication. Uh, Actually, hazard should be clearly communicated in these areas. People should come to an understanding of the hazard that pertains to their operation in a warehouse. Uh, there's a globally harmonized standard for hazard that we have right now. This ought to be put into using implementation in the warehouses. Uh, so as for the things I could pick, these are the things I'm able to cover. Thank you very much, Mr. Mr. Wala. We appreciate your presentation. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mojede, for that wonderful contribution. I really appreciate your time and your expertise on this topic. Thank you for your time. So Do
Yeah,
we?
for me,
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
warehouse safety generally is talking about material management and material stacking, arrangement of materials in an orderly way. And first and foremost, what are the major hazards that are involved? Just as you have elaborated from the beginning, I think, and what Omojede has also said, I think warehouse safety is a very large system of its own, where if materials are not properly arranged and if materials are not properly moved as per their the design required position, it creates another issue during when these materials will be needed for use. So materials must be kept according to their needs. I think I know they are using what is called also FIFO, first in, first out. And when you relate all this to safety aspect, we must also ensure that the racks are properly labeled according to the kgs or tonnage of material that are needed. If racks are not well marked out on the storage of materials, this will create another big hazard where materials are supposed to be stored in maybe 10 kg and you are going to store some heavy weight on these racks. It becomes a very big issue. And also in the warehouse, safety, we consider majorly also as well, like what we are doing. We also consider the usage of, the forklift. We've also mentioned that. We also consider the usage of, what do we call this equipment? Is to reduce the involvement of manual handling that may create waist pain or body pain or back pain. So all these mechanical devices are majorly also considered in the warehouse management and the safety aspect, just to reduce the ripple effect on the personnel that are working in the warehouse that may create accident while they are involved in this process. So the mechanical means of how to move loads are majorly also considered in the warehouse process. And you must ensure that all the walkway must not be congested. You must consider space so that people are not trapped if there are emergency in the warehouse. They must the layout must be well defined so that materials will be kept as layouts are designed for easy movement and easy accommodating of other materials that are supposed to be in the warehouse. So warehouse safety generally is encompassing in the construction industry because it's not going to be only dedicated for warehouse, because in most cases, all sites has warehouse where they are storing materials for project use or going to other or going or distributing. So we must consider a lot of things when it comes to warehouse, especially ergonomic, the design of the warehouse. So being said, from what you said, or what you just said, I think we can say we've learned something on this topic, uh, which we can also go out to do more research more, because it's a different part of the safety line of what we are practicing, but it's also part of what we are doing on daily basis. So that is just for me.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Francis. Okay, Andrew, go ahead.
Good evening, my brothers.
Good evening, bro.
You're doing a great job, and I think it's opportunity which many people are missing. So diversify and learn. Yeah, I am happy listening to all of you and learning from you all one point or the other. Yeah, just to add my little understanding of warehouse. This warehouse safety, just as the previous speaker have highlighted is practice in almost every organization, because in one way or the other, we must store material. So looking at the holistic aspect of the warehouse safety, there are many, just as you have highlighted, many issues, everything that concerns safety, transport safety, dangerous goods, because the goods that you store in the warehouse also matters. Increase that we determine the level of risk or hazard that we exist in us in the warehouse. For example, people store keeping explosive material or toxic material in the warehouse. That will be, I think, the level of precaution will be more higher. If I'm right, then the load, the weight, the stacking, and the measures that have to be put in place to make sure that every aspect of the warehouse is documented, well documented, to know which goods are more prioritized compared to others, if these goods are more fragile. So a lot of things to consider, talking about the risk assessment, talking about chemical handling, talking about stacking, talking about also the transportation inside the warehouse, where you have your mechanical aids, forklift, overhead crane, and all that. So there are a lot of issues that we can look at. Though I've not worked specifically in the warehouse, but from our site experience, you know, the layouts of where we store materials, the transporting of this and offloading of these materials, all these are encompassed into materials storage and warehousing and control, inventory, and all that have to be widely considered, because the topic is actually something that when we look at it very well, you can see that it covers a whole lot of industries that manage this aspect of health, safety, health, and also considering the implication of violating the laws that will lead to litigations and all that. So it's whole aspect of safety can be incorporated into this warehousing safety. In case we find ourselves in working in the warehouse, we can actually look beyond the aspect of just protecting the workers, the materials. We also, just as you have cited OSHA and all that. So because when incidents happen, it will go beyond the management. External bodies will come in. There will be kind of claims and all that. So this is a very good topic, and I believe by the time we keep learning like this, we'll be able to expand our knowledge. And just as you, Mr. Ero, have suggested before, that we can postpone it because others are not here. We are looking at this platform as a global platform. We have a lot of other people listening. I want to also appeal to Mr. Jossi that if possible, we can also add some videos sometimes when we are making a presentation for the wider audience, just to make it, because those people that don't have the in-depth knowledge of health and safety can easily relate to such videos. Just a suggestion, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Andrew, thank you very much for that wonderful contribution. And thank you for this, for your ideas and for your time as well. I know Doha is very busy, so anybody that brings out 1 hour out of his time, it's a very huge time. So I do appreciate. So thank you all guys for your wonderful contribution. Amajide, thank you for your in-depth practical experience you shared with us. So we really appreciate. And one of the reasons why we started looking at industries and their safety practices is at least for us to have a basic knowledge of what is going on there from people who have had practical experience, just like Omojede shared with us today. So that is one of the benefits of us being here. So thank you guys. I really appreciate. All right, Andrew, you want to add something? Okay. So that is it from me. You want to say something, you can go ahead.
Oh,
Well,
okay. Yeah. What I wanted to say is, I make a suggestion of adding some video just to spice the whole thing. But I meant to understand that when you add video, there's tendency of Facebook or YouTube flagging your page, like because of copyright issues. Except I don't know, we can come up with something more to avoid that before we can start adding some short videos in case. So we have to look into that to avoid any problem.
Okay. We'll look into that and make some researches before we conclude on that. So thank you, Francis, for coming, and thank you guys for your time. So we'll meet again next week. So, but we have some industries we've not touched. So I'm looking at people who are practically experienced in those industries to take it up, like yard, like shipyards, like all those stations, oil and gas offshore. So I'm looking at some people who have had a practical experience to take it up. So you can let me know if you can take up any of the industries. Okay. It's almost time. So see you next week. Thank you guys for your time.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen.